Well, George Soros is the ultimate real life Bond villain. We've touched on Soros a little bit earlier in the program. It seems that he has made it his life work to destroy Western civilization, and leftist leaders throughout the Anglosphere seem to be kind of cheering him on. Very weird. Very, very odd, that, isn't it? Joining us to discuss all this is Scott Shepard. Scott is a fellow at the National Center for Public Policy Research. He's also the director of its Free Enterprise Project, and we welcome him back to State of the Nation. Scott, great to see you, sir. How are you today?
Wonderful to see you again, Steve. How have you been? I'm great on this side.
Good. I'm doing fine, but I must tell you, Scott, and I know that you've been kind of on this topic a little bit lately, and we touched on it earlier today on the show. George Soros. This guy is an absolute villain, and
Yeah.
I don't understand how he gets away with what he does. I guess money can buy you just about anything, but I mean, this guy could be cast in a Bond movie. He is the ultimate Bond villain, isn't he?
Well, I think he's got some allies or competition for that position now. You've got that Klaus Schwab clown who runs the World Economic Forum,
Yeah.
Larry Fink, Brian Moynihan, who's the CEO of Bank of America. There's a lot of people. Maybe we'd have to make it a council of evil, but he's definitely should take the top of the table.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I thought Fink was trying to walk some of this stuff back with BlackRock. He's BlackRock, isn't that Fink?
Yeah, he's
Uh,
BlackRock.
yeah, he's BlackRock. I thought he was trying to. Go ahead.
No, I think you're right. He, in all fairness, he does seem he's always squirrely, and then he walks something back and then undoes it. But
Yeah.
BlackRock seems genuinely to be making at least some efforts to come to grips with the reality and to the partisan nature of quite a bit of its behavior in the last few years. So maybe Larry's going to resign from the Roundtable of Evil. We'll see. We can certainly hope so. But George Soros, I think he's too old to do any resigning, and his what he's done is written firmly in the book of fate.
Yeah, true. And his son is no better. I mean, his son has basically said. I mean, I think his son came out a week or two ago and basically said, "If you think my father's on the left, wait till you get a load of me." Another basically kind of saying, "You ain't seen nothing yet." I know
He's
that.
got all the evil. Sorry, he's got all the evil of his dad and all the punchability of a millennial. So not great.
Yeah. Well, I know that Putin said something years ago, and believe me, I don't carry water for Vladimir Putin, but he was right about one thing. He was right about George Soros. He can't stand the man. And it was a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, he basically said, Mr. Soros is welcome to come to Moscow, but he should know he'll never leave. And Soros hasn't stepped foot in Russia ever since. Maybe that's what we need to do. But my question to you, Scott, is why does Soros have these allies in our own government? I mean, I know the money, but I mean, he is trying to destroy Western civilization, from what I can tell.
Well, I think that's absolutely right, and particularly the English-speaking peoples. Right? That's Churchill's phrase: the mothers of democracy, of representative government, free enterprise, the societies that absolutely are responsible in the first instance and the continuing instances for the explosion of liberty and prosperity and human happiness on this globe. Not alone, but to a very great extent, and as initiators of that fact that he wants to destroy it. Now, he had a terrible youth and upbringing. He was Jewish in the Hitler-controlled areas of Europe. He had to make some ugly deals to survive. He probably came out of that with a very warped sense of what he constantly uses the term open society, safety, of what that means in the world. And for some reason, he took off against the English-speaking peoples in particular. And so you're absolutely right that he's trying to destroy American civilization and free civilization and prosperous civilization. Who knows why? And I don't want to, I don't want to belabor that, but why there's so many allies? It's because think about it. We were talking about the round table of evil at Davos. All of that ridiculous crowd genuinely wants to be a global class of nobility that gets to keep their jets and their mansions, and they don't worry about their carbon footprints, but constrain the rest of us to live little lives with little chance of seeing the world in small houses in overcrowded communities without any chance to grow or be successful in the ways that they have been successful in their lives, because they want to control us. And it just simply comes down to that. And everybody understands, and I think George Soros in particular understands, that in order to have that kind of new feudalism or whatever you want to call it develop, you first have to destroy free American people, free English-speaking people, and middle classes everywhere. And so that's what they're trying to do all across the.
And, when you say that, Scott, I know some people will hear that and they'll think, gee, he's being a little bit hyperbolic here. But no, you're not. No, you're not being at all hyperbolic. I mean, it was only a few months ago that Klaus. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it was only a few months ago that Klaus Schwab, and I agree, he's right there at the round table of evil too, said to all of his compatriots at Davos, the people in this room control the world. I mean, good God, man. I mean, that a bad scriptwriter couldn't have written that any more plainly. And that's where Soros is.
The crap, the things that he wears to those World Economic Forum meetings, he looks like he's trying to look like a comic book villain. And he says the quiet parts out loud all the time. He went on Chinese television and said, the Chinese system is a really great system. We always have to be careful when forcibly exporting systems onto other countries. But this is one of the things. He has to be careful about forcing other countries to adopt the Chinese system. He doesn't have to be careful about that. That's evil incarnate. He has to not do that. And you consider how much the World Economic Forum pushes equity-based discrimination and intergenerational guilt and race guilt. Well, his dad was an actual, genuine, honest-to-God Nazi. And if we're going to start with racial and intergenerational guilt, let's have that guy kicked entirely out of polite human civilization, not trying to demand that the rest of us bow to his will and own nothing and like it.
Yeah, and that was, of course, his famous book, his famous line, "You'll own nothing and be happy." Yeah, it does seem, Scott, that all of these players that you have mentioned, they really do kind of want a caste system for the globe, don't they? I mean, they want us all to be like India, where if you're an untouchable, you will never rise above that rank. And by the way, if you're middle class or upper middle class or striving to become middle class, cash in your chips because you're not going any damn where. 15-minute cities and all the rest of it.
That's absolutely right. The bastion of freedom everywhere and always is the middle class. If you have a huge, thriving middle class that can rise up into the upper class if it works hard and has the right chances and wishes to, that's great and that's to strive for. But you can't achieve neo-feudalism with a middle class. Of course, feudalism didn't have any middle class at all. And so these clowns have to and desire to destroy the middle class. And everything that Soros does, particularly in the United States, is designed for that. He funds keeping the borders open and destroying civil society. He funds destroying the integrity of American elections and allowing the left to steal them. He funds the destruction of our cities with DAs who won't prosecute. They'll prosecute Trumps, but they will not prosecute actual criminals. And they say that's for the benefit of the minorities in those cities who hurt the worst because of it. All up and down the line, these people are purposely, systemically trying to destroy civil societies, destroy liberty, destroy prosperity. so that we live like serfs, and I know this sounds like hyperbole, but it's true. We live like serfs, and they are our global masters.
And, I'll tell you, you don't have to look too far here in the States to find our own George Soros and Klaus Schwab's. Just look at Al Gore and John Kerry. I'll never forget when John Kerry was asked, well, listen, if you're so damn concerned about global warming, why are you flying all over the place in a private jet? Why don't you just fly commercial? And he said, well, a man in my position needs to fly on a private jet. In other words, shut up, plebe. Stupid question. I'm getting in the Gulf Stream and pack your ass on board the JetBlue in the economy section and shut up, because pretty soon we're not even going to let you do that.
That's exactly right. And in weak moments, they all say that. Bill Gates, who really, after the Lolita Express experiences, should stay off any planes at all, he said the same thing. He said, look, I have a private jet because I fly around the world and make other people lessen their carbon footprints. So I deserve it. Well, that's just evil.
Yeah, it really is. Let me ask you, though, because I must say that I think that people are kind of, it seems to me, now you tell me if I'm right or wrong, maybe this is just wishful thinking on my part, Scott, but it seems to me that the globe, especially here in the States, maybe I pray God in Europe as well, but it's starting to kind of have an epiphany about all this. They're kind of starting to see it. And it might have something to do with Klaus Schwab wearing this Darth Vader looking outfits at the World Economic Forum. I don't know what it is, but people seem to be thinking, man, these guys really are all about themselves, and they're lecturing, and yet they're taking limos and private jets. Do you think that people are starting to push back against this? Because I mean, you look at the poll numbers, Biden ain't doing worth a damn right now. What do you think?
No, I think that's exactly right. The heart of this lunatic decarbonization process was the center of Europe, Germany and France in particular. And in recent German elections, all three of the pro-green, anti-progress and prosperity parties came in last in state-level elections in Germany. And the people of Germany are making it clear that they simply will not permit the deindustrialization and impoverization of their country. In Germany, there was a protest just the other day that farmers came in and brought some of the product of their herds and dumped them on the ecology ministry's front steps to make it clear that they weren't fans of starving in the dark. The Dutch just elected, is it Geert Wilders? I can't remember exactly his name.
Yeah, Geert Wilders.
A fairly libertarian guy who's with the farmers in the Netherlands who want to, I don't know, keep their jobs and keep people fed. We've got the fella down in Argentina, the self-proclaimed libertarian. So I think that we're really seeing populations wake up around the world. And what caught Western Europeans, so you remember about 15 years ago, they couldn't stop talking about the dangers of GMO, of genetically modified food. But that they've completely forgotten about that in succeeding years, because then they were all in favor of lab-grown meat because they were worried about the planet. But it turns out that they're worried about that, all of that as a virtue signaling exercise. I'm not sure why Western Europe is so prone to it, but now that it's going to make them terrifically poor and terrifically less able to get ahead, and cold in the winter and hot in the summer, now they're thinking better.
Yeah. And, it's funny because also, European, even more so than in the States here, the European millennial crowd and the Gen Zers, they're the ones throwing soup on masterpieces and stuff. People are starting to genuinely get PO'd about that in Europe, and that's good to see. And I agree with you. With Geert Wilders and this Milei character down in Argentina, maybe that's a sign of things to come. Scott, listen, we're getting the music, means I got to shut up, but give us a plug. Where can we find your work and get in touch with you online? Absolutely. We're at nationalcenter.org, freeenterpriseproject.org. I try to have a weekly piece at Real Clear Markets. I've been a little busy recently,
but you can expect those regularly in the new year. Get in touch with us and help us fight the wokeness of corporations and this attempt to take down American civilization.
There we go. Scott Shepard, thank you so much, sir. We'll do it again soon. Take care of yourself, sir.